Good afternoon, everyone. It's Instructor J with Guardian Training Consulting, and welcome to our Fireside chat. So again, this is a weekday occurrence kind of thing at 5 o'clock every day, every weekday, and wanted to take this time. We have a different topic every time. So this topic today is we're going to be talking about knives. Okay, knives for life and knives for personal defense. So, so we're going to be talking about different variants of knives from, Swiss Army knives to folding knives to assist open knives to full switch blades, fixed blades, and everything in between. So let's just wait for a minute and wait for a couple people to join. Thanks for joining me, Maddie, on Instagram. Let's see. You got a couple. Okay, so we're going to be talking about knives today, and how it pertains to your life. So just a disclaimer: I'm not a knife fighter. I don't do crazy knife fighting. Kali, our company doesn't teach knife fighting or knife defense. I carry knives, number one for utility, and then number two for self defense. And I've carried all these types of knives, with the exception of maybe one. In my lifetime, and then in different capacities. So, let's just go into the utility aspect. Yeah, they're an awesome tool. I have, again, we have a kitchen full of knives. When people are afraid of guns, it's like, okay, well, what about the kitchen full of knives, the knife block that you have? It's full of knives. Yeah, they're weapons just as much as anything else. And I'm not getting on my soapbox. It's just, again, we talk about gun control and protecting our children from guns. But we have a knife block sitting with fixed blade knives anywhere from a couple inches to 5 to 6 inches, serrated, non-serrated. So that's just part of our lives. We use those every day of our lives. And then there are specialty knives out there that are for self-defense. I've carried knives in my law enforcement career and my entire career. For the most part, they've been a switchblade or assist type of knife, rarely a folding style knife. But we're just going to go through them. So first things first, a lot of people like to, again, carry knives that otherwise, they're like, I would never carry a gun, but I'd carry a knife for self-defense. Well, I can tell you right now, I've seen my fair share of stab wounds and people that have been in knife fights, and it is just a gruesome thing to watch somebody that's been stabbed or sliced from little tiny knives to big machetes. And it's not to scare people; it's just a realization. So I'm going to start with kind of the first basic style knife is like your Swiss Army knife. Great tool in like Leatherman's. They're awesome tools. They have a myriad of different functions from a folding knife to a pair of scissors to the very, very utility bottle opener to open up your bottles of booze and your beer, to corkscrews and screwdrivers, stuff like that. And your Leathermans have the pliers, needle nose pliers. So great utility. Self-defense, I would say on that scale, it's pretty worthless. But there's a lot of tools out there that are great. I have a Leatherman in my survival kit. So when we're going to be going up north here very soon, and I always have a Leatherman in my bag, in my not a go bag, not a bug out bag, but like a survival bag that has food and a jet boil and some of the dry food, and then it has a Leatherman. So then moving up from like a Leatherman, Swiss Army knife would be your folding knives. So again, they're non-assisted. These are First Tacticals. They were given to me by First Tactical during a photo shoot. So yeah, they're really tactical looking, but they are just a simple folding knife. There's no assist. They do have a nub on them to help out. You can see the different type of knife points here. This one would be like a standard, like a drop point, while this one is a Tonto style knife, and then it has some ridging on the back. One of them is serrated here, and then this one is a non-serrated knife. So to get on the difference between serrated, non-serrated, it really just depends on what you want. You can sharpen serrations, and I'll show you a tool that actually can do that. You can use a file, a round file to engage this part, and then you can use what I'm going to show you here in a few minutes, how you can sharpen the other side. Serrations are great if your knife gets dull and you don't have the ability to sharpen it. The serration stays definitely sharper longer than the straight edge. But again, it's more tearing than it is slicing. While again, from different spear points, while you have like a Tonto point, they're great for piercing. And also as it pierces, due to the angle geometry, it does slice as well as it pierces. So yeah, these are great utility knives. Fighting knife wise, from the ease of deployment, yeah, I can do it with one hand, but it takes a little time. So it does have a glass breaker on it. This one does. This one has a glass breaker on it, so really good if you needed to break glass, as well as it does have a rope cutter here, so you can throw the rope in there and then cut the rope from there. And then it has a sight tool. So this is like for adjusting knobs. So this part's for adjusting like an aim point knob on a rifle. So it does have some utility to it. A really good range knife, and then then just a simple pocket knife. Both of these, this one's an AUS 8 blade, metal. I think this is a 440C. No, this is an AUS 8 as well. So just different stuff. So then moving on, I think the next progression would be you're an assist. So this isn't a switchblade, it's more of an assist knife. So I have to exert some type of pressure on it, and then it flips the blade out to the side. So it goes out just like this and in like that. So all I do is just push on this nub, and then as I activate it, it comes out. So really good knife. This is a Kershaw Blur, super cheap knife from a perspective of price point. I think they're like $30 or $40. Nothing crazy. This one is a 1670 blade steel. So really good all together knife. Again, a Tonto blade, partially serrated. I carried this for numerous amounts of years, so you can see how beat up it is, and then the tip is actually fractured on it. So I was just poking it through a door to try to open a door on somebody that didn't go to work, and it was a welfare check. So didn't go to work, didn't answer, and then ended up being deceased inside, but snapped off the tip on it. But I carried this for a numerous amount of years, and it just worked. And then I upgraded from there. Then I went to a out the front style switchblade. So the biggest question I always get is, are these types of knives legal in the state of Arizona? They are. There is no knife, with the exception of ballistic knives, which are outlawed by the United States. There are no knives that are illegal in the state of Arizona. So you can have an out the front switchblade knife. You can have an out the side switchblade knife, butterfly knives, or your balisongs, K-bars, Arkansas toothpicks, perfectly legal. So this is a company called Ravencrest Tactical. So they are based in Mesa, Arizona, local. They kind of specialize in the out the front switchblade. So this was the actual knife that actually got me introduced to their company. Their company actually donated 50% of the profits for this knife, the Fallen Heroes ones, to Dave Payne. Dave Payne's funeral. One of my fellow officers at my department, he was rear-ended. He was a motorcycle police officer and was rear-ended the night of Halloween at 55 miles an hour by a drunk and was killed instantly. So 50% of all the profits for this knife went to Dave's family. So very well built knives. They are not American made, so just food for thought on that. They're not American made, but they are American assembled. The great thing about these is, again, I can. This is the one that goes on my vest. It just stays on my vest all the time. The great part about it is, if once I deploy it, it's one-handed activation into the proverbial fight, or if I need to cut something, and then it's one-hand deactivation, and I can put it back in my pocket. So I don't have to fold it and do any crazy stuff. I literally just pull it out, activate the knife, and then when I'm done, I just push the button down this way. The great part about these knives, is the fact that if anything gets broken on this knife, the Ravencrest knife, all I have to do is go back to Ravencrest or email Ravencrest, and they'll send me a new part. So if I jam this in a door frame, so if I activate it and jam it in a door frame and then snap the blade in half, and I say, hey, I snap my blade in half, they'll send me a new blade. No questions asked. It's just like Craftsman. So comparative to like Benchmade and Emerson and stuff like that, they're not at that price point. This is around a little over $200, and people are like, that's a lot of money. I'm like, okay, that may well be true, but the very fact is that every part of this is replaceable. From the grip, from the screws, if the screws fall out, the blade snaps, any kind of mess up in the internals, they replace it. So that's pretty bomber. The fact that I spent out $200 on a knife, but everything is replaceable on it. So this is a Tonto blade. They come in that black nitride style, and then you can get different colors: blue, reds, pinks. Karen actually has a pink one of these, hot pink with the black clip. You can change out the grip screws, and then have different blade styles from spear point to Tonto to a drop point. I think they do make a clip point as well, partially serrated, fully serrated, or no serrations at all. So this is a knife that I've carried on my vest for 4 or 5 years now. This is the one that I carry every day in my pocket, my back pocket. So you can tell it's seen its days on the finish wise. But again, everything is super sharp. Blade is sharp. Excuse me. This does have a spear point with double serrations. So if you see up here, double serrations. So I chose a spear point because I like the slicing aspect of it and the puncturing aspect of it. So again, I've carried this. I've never had to replace the blade on it. All I've done is sharpen this. I've never replaced the handle. Nate from Ravencrest actually offered to replace the handle or refinish the handle. I said absolutely not. I like the way it feels. It does have a glass breaker. All these models have a glass breaker at the end. The first one I had actually snapped off and broke because I broke like 2 windshields, and then they just replaced it. So it just unscrews, and then it's a reversible belt clip. So again, I'm a huge fan of these knives. They work really, really well. I've had a couple times I've had to get tune-ups just because of the lint that gets into the system. It slows it down, but all I have to do is go to Ravencrest, which is at Lindsay and McKellips, I believe. They'll send me a new one. The cool thing about these as well, if I have something like a notepad, everybody's like, it's just going to go right through the notepad. These actually has a safety device. You can see here, it will actually come out and then not go all the way through. It barely even went through that first piece of paper. And then it becomes a free float knife blade. So that's a huge safety feature of these knives, is they just won't go through anything. Microtechs are great, John Wick style. That's what John Wick carried of this variety, but you're going to spend almost $500 to $600 for a Microtech or a Benchmade Infidel. Another great knife, but again, $500-600. It's going to put you out quite a bit of money. Just food for thought on that. So this is an economical version of that just doesn't stop going. So last but not least, your fixed blade knives. I have like at least 2 fixed blade knives depending on the size. So this one right here is like a Warncliffe style knife. It's great for cutting, slicing. If you want to carry it for self-defense, it works really, really well. So again, it has a straight edge, and then it's partially serrated. A lot of people ask, well, what's this for? I'll explain it to you when I get to the next knife, which is more of like my camping style knife. So this is great G10 laminate grips, very comfortable to hold on to. And if you need to use it as a self-defense tool, it's a really good one. So moving on to my camp knife is right here. So I'll explain what this little doodad is that I actually attach it to when I store it. This knife here is more of like a cleaver style knife. I really like this knife. It's just as sharp to fillet something, and it's just as strong. You can see how much meat it has behind it. To chop. So It's a 440C steel. Again, it's very well made, very good in the hand. So this is my honestly, this competition style chopper cleaver is my go-to knife for a camp knife, because again, I can chop trees, I can chop like little small saplings down, chop through bone if I needed to, if I was hunting an animal. And then again, it has this part right here, and a lot of people are like, well, what's that for? Well, this is a ferro rod. So a ferro rod, I have a ferro rod in almost every kind of kit I have. So this is ferrocerium, I forget what it's called. It's like a magnesium derivative. It's a man-made magnesium. So it burns at 5,000 degrees. So when it sparks out, it's 5,000 degrees. So any kind of tinder, the really good tinder that I always carry is lint, dryer lint. I have a Ziploc bag full of dryer lint, which is great for starting fire. If in this uncertain time, you need to start a fire. So what this does is actually indexes to my ferro rod, and again, I can't do it sitting up this way, but again, you can see that it indexes very well. So there we go. So it indexes very well. It's easy when I'm right here. So it indexes on my ferro rod, and then the great part about it indexing on my ferro rod is it doesn't ruin my blade or the back of my blade. It actually has a part that indexes on my ferro rod. So really, really cool stuff. That's why when I store this knife in my kit, again, it comes in a leather scabbard that I have a belt loop here. I typically take my ferro rod that attaches to it, because then what I do is I put this on a belt loop. I secure this on a belt loop like that, and then once I secure it on the belt loop, and then I put this in my pocket, so I never lose it. And the reason it's orange is I can find it. So when I store this knife, I typically take my ferro rod with my 550 cord. I do that, and then I loop around the ferro rod through the hole here, and then I put the knife back in its scabbard, and now I have my knife and ferro rod together. And then when I pick it up or it's in my kit, I take it and it goes with me. So last but not least, so I talked about that. I talked about your fixed blade knives. I talked about your out the front switch blades, to your folding knives, and then to kind of your utility style knives, your Swiss Army knives or your Leathermans. The last thing that I always recommend is, again, taking care of your knives and your blades, whether it's your kitchen knives or whether it's your hunting knives or your outdoor knives. What I really, really like that a buddy of mine got me really turned on to was the use of the work sharp. This takes literally all of the guesswork out of sharpening knives, which I really, really like. Again, it's not as much of a on-the-go sharpening device, but again, the reason I like the Ken Onion one is because I can adjust the degrees from, I think it's 15 degrees to 30 degrees. So 15 degrees would be good for your fillet knives, all the way to 30 degrees, which would be good for your axes and camp axes and hatchets, or your tools. So it really just takes all of the thinking out of what you're doing. So literally all I do is just put the knife through here, run the rotary, and run the knife through this way, through this way, through this way, and do a couple passes on a 4,000 degree grit, 4,000 grit sharpening belt, and you got a razor sharp knife. Again, take care of your knives. I do recommend the work sharp. It just keeps it keeps it simple. Again, I have a whetstone, a sharpening stone that I keep in my survival kit when I'm out in the field. But this right here, when I'm at home, sharpening all my axes to my cutlery, it does everything. So if you guys have any questions, comments, concerns, if you need anything, we're here for you. That's what we're here for. That's why we do this cast, is just to try to educate and try to provide some type of something for you to watch and keep you busy, as well as maybe learn something in the process. Check out our new online courses. We have Stop the Bleed, a bleeding control course. So we just released our bleeding control course online. So it's tourniquets and chest seals, pressure, and use of hemostatic agents. So we just released that, and it's very exciting. So you can do all of that coursework online. And now we're doing a distance learning CCW. So a lot of people have been arguing like this is an online CCW. You can't have online CCW as well. There's an online portion that has videos, but then you also get a conference call just like this with me or Karen, and we actually go through the course and get the live aspects of that. And we do a Q&A and a review of the lessons. So we have that, and then the concealed carry, the Arizona concealed carry class, that you do not have to be a resident of Arizona to get an Arizona concealed carry permit. So the distance learning from the concealed carry permit, as well as the bleeding control class. Both of those are online. They're self-paced. You can take them at your own convenience and in the safety of your own home in this crazy world we live in. I'm starting to see more people buy guns than I've ever seen before. And where's the training? That's the big part of it. So contact us. Check out our website, www.gtctrain.org, and we'll go from there. You guys have a great day. Be safe, and we'll see you tomorrow. Thank you.